Sport! Friday at 7 p.m, your weekend sports on Talk Radio Europe with the Friday Sports Bar.
Thanks for choosing Talk Radio Europe and the Friday Night Sports Bar, coming to you live from the Talk Radio Europe studios for your hour of sport this Friday. Coming up on the show over the next hour, Rafa Benitez takes his Chelsea team across London, hoping for third time lucky. England playing for pride tomorrow at Twickenham as the mighty All Blacks are in town. Andrew Flintoff steps into the ring in barely a few hours for his professional boxing debut. Clearly he's got his dates wrong. Andrew Flintoff, April Fool's Day has come and gone. And staying with boxing, on a more serious note, at 9:30 tonight, join Paul Breen Turner on Talk Radio Europe live from Aintree as David Price takes to the ring again against Matt Skelton in the British and Commonwealth heavyweight title. Top fighter David Price. All that and plenty more to come. Stuart Joseph and Richard Tilsley joining me in the studio as usual this evening, and you on the airwaves. Stay with us for the next hour.
Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth.
Good evening and welcome once again to the Friday Night Sports Bar, and a warm welcome on a very chilly evening here on the Costa del Sol. Stuart Joseph, Richard Tilsley, welcome back, guys.
Good evening.
Good to be here, Dom.
Shall we just kick the show very quickly?
I was determined to be here today.
Well, and why is that?
Because I knew that if I wasn't here, you'd be crowing about that South African win, and I thought that I'd have to give some sort of realistic perspective on the game, okay, and remind you how lucky South Africa were.
Lucky. Come on, you guys haven't won an autumn international yet. Oh, you have, sorry, Fiji. Hardly a test of your resolve, that. Tomorrow, I can tell you what, New Zealand are going to feel like they're going to be playing Fiji at Twickenham, that's for sure.
Well, I think there's a lot to be encouraged about if you are an England rugby fan.
And what's that?
Well, I think the second half display, I think that we were absolutely overwhelmed, South Africa.
For goodness sakes. Richard, you've got to put things in perspective here, okay? We are the number 2 ranked side in world rugby. We just come off the end of 20 test matches, God knows how many Super 15 matches. It's our last game of the season, and we still managed to beat you with our second team. I mean, we left, 6 or 7 of our starting 15 at home due to injury, and you still couldn't beat us, so I don't get the point.
Well, the team is a work in progress, and I think also that...
since 2003?
No, I think that there's a lot of the new young players that come into the team, Dom, and I think that also over the last 2 autumn internationals that England have been handicapped by some very poor captaincy decisions. And I'm not necessarily convinced. I said this to you last season. I think Rob Shaw is a really, really good player, but I think... Firstly, you need a specialist.
I've got a good idea. You know what could resolve your problems?
What?
For England rugby? Choose a captain that's one of your foreigners in your team. That might make a difference. Because they certainly, as a group, the foreigners that represent England have made a difference, haven't they?
Well, certainly. I mean, you'd have to say that Tuilagi was mightily impressive.
And Brad Barrett, I mean, he's born and bred from Durban.
But so what about Owen Farrell?
So Owen Farrell, what about him?
Oh, I thought he was very good when he came on.
Well, I'm a big fan of Owen Farrell. He gets a start tomorrow as well.
I mean, at least one thing that's... one positive thing that has come out of these autumn internationals is that hopefully we will see the end of Toby Flood in a number 10 jersey for England.
Well, that's one thing I would have hoped that would have been the case before the autumn international. Here's an interesting thing. Did you know that Owen Farrell, alongside Daniel Carter, the greatest fly half the world's ever seen, Richard McCaw, who's won the award on 3 occasions, Owen Farrell has actually been nominated as the IRB World Player of the Year. The announcement is made on Monday, and Owen Farrell is on that shortlist. Did you know that?
I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me, Dominic, because he made a tremendous impact for England in the Six Nations.
He did indeed, yeah.
And he's a young lad, and you can see that already this season he's a little bit bigger than he was last year. And as a result, a little bit, tougher to take down and a lot tougher in the tackle. And I think his decision-making has improved as well from the experience. Great player. But the other player who I think is really exciting and that all England rugby fans are looking forward to sort of, him sort of, reaching that sort of maturity perhaps in a year or two is the young Leicester player as well. George Ford.
Yeah. Apparently he's a young talent as well. We might as well finish with the rugby. I mean, we had that down towards the end of the show, but we might as well carry on with the chats because Wales are also in action tomorrow against Australia. But let's just go back to this England encounter. Everybody loves to watch the All Blacks. Everybody wants to test themselves against the All Blacks. This is one of the greatest rugby teams that the world has ever seen. 20 matches so far this year, unbeaten. The only result that went almost against them was a draw in recent times against Australia. I think it was 18 apiece in the Bledisloe Cup. New Zealand are a class outfit. I mean, they've got world-class players absolutely everywhere. But for me, one of the most intriguing battles will certainly be in the centre when you've got Ma Nonu, Conrad Smith going against Bradley Barrett and Manu Tulagi. There should be a very physical battle there in midfield.
Well, that's what you expect when they're from the All Blacks. I mean, it's always a very, very physical encounter, and especially up front in the pack. I mean, even though sometimes they can be a little bit, I suppose, outweighed by the opposition, you know, you would never know it because the determination and the fight in the All Blacks is greater, I think, than almost any other team collectively. That desire to win, and it's amazing. As soon as they put on that black jersey, it transforms those players into Supermen.
I mean, Richie McCaw, one of the greatest flankers, number 7s that I've ever seen, one of the greatest number 7s of all time, and that's represented in the fact that he's been the World Player of the Year on 3 occasions, more than likely will be named it on a 4th occasion come Monday. Richie McCaw leads the pack very much from the front. At the breakdown, he's very dangerous. Then you just cast your eye over the back line. You've got Daniel Carter there, who pulls all the strings. Israel Dag running from deep. And then you're talking about England's back three as well. You've got Alex Good, who's come in from Saracens, who's performed very well. You've got Mike Brown on the wing, and on the other side you've got Chris Ashton, some very attacking players, but for me I think they're going to be spending most of the day tomorrow defending.
Well, undoubtedly, Dominic, and you know, it is the toughest encounter that they will have all year, without any shadow of a doubt. And I think what they can do is take heart from that tremendous second half performance by Wales last week. And I think if you take the fight to the All Blacks, you've got a chance. But if you sit back and are a little bit tentative and don't play a slightly more defensive game to try and compensate their overwhelming strength, then you're in trouble. I think the only way is to play them at their own game and be as aggressive as they are.
And before the Test match begins, you have that wonderful spectacle, one of the greatest spectacles in sport, and that is the haka.
Well, it is, and it's in some ways I think it's a little unfair. I think it gives them a psychological advantage.
Don't you think the opposition, I mean, obviously from a South African and Australian point of view, they're so used to playing each other that the South Africans view that very much as something that lifts them up ahead of the game. To stand in front of the All Blacks, they know that this is the ultimate test.
Well, it is, but I still think it does give them a psychological advantage.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a very English way to answer a challenge, but never mind that.
No, because the thing is, I mean, if you think in past years, I mean, do you remember, was it Phil Cockerell, the hooker, and his way of meeting the challenge? And I thought it was perfectly legitimate, was to, literally go up and run in their face and say, come on then if you think, if you're hard enough. Mm. And he was roundly criticised by the RFU, and in fact after that they issued an edict which said that nobody could in any way disrespect the haka. So, but I don't think any rugby fan saw it as disrespecting. I thought it was like that is the team's way of making the challenge.
So if the England rugby team had to have something similar going into a Test match before every Test match, what do you think that would be?
Very good question. But the French also had got an interesting tactic with the haka as well, and they were banned from doing that a number of years ago, which was that basically they turned their back on it and had a little chat. Went into the huddle and
just ignored it.
And they were prevented from doing that. And I think that again, it's giving yet another advantage to the All Blacks.
Well, whatever it for me as a rugby fan, South African rugby fan, that is, to watch the All Blacks play is always a wonderful occasion. It's going to be a wonderful occasion tomorrow at Twickenham, England versus New Zealand. We mustn't forget the other Autumn International before they all finish, again taking place at the same time at the Millennium Stadium, as Wales hoping to stop a 6-game losing streak since winning the Six Nations Championships. They take on Australia, a vastly improved performance by them last week against the All Blacks, despite losing 33 points to 10. We're going to change. Sorry, Rich, you wanted to just add something.
I was just going to say, yeah, one thing when it comes to the haka, don't make the mistake I once did in front of a bunch of Kiwis, where I referred to the haka as that ridiculous little dance you guys do. And before the rugby match, and I thought I was going to get lynched in this pub in West London. They got very upset about it.
What did they actually do to you in the end? Did they?
No, they just said, "Let me know in no uncertain terms that the haka was not a little dance, as I referred to it, but was an invitation, or a war sort of an invitation to war."
Were you actually in a New Zealand pub in Shepherd's Bush somewhere as well when you did this?
No. I was in the Southern. I think it used to be called the Southern Cross.
I thought you were talking about there was a New Zealand bar near the church in King's Cross, which was a Kiwi bar.
Well, there used to be the Redback in it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I used to haunt those places when I was sort of 17, 18 years old. Okay.
And I think there's another one there is one in Shepherd's Bush. I can't remember what it's called. The Walkabout.
The Walkabout, yeah. Those were the days.
Tell me, is there a translation to that? To the haka? Does it mean? Is there words? What they chant? Does it mean?
It's just basically a tribal challenge. They're laying down a challenge to the opposition. Obviously, it stems deeper from their traditions, from their tribes. But we won't go into too much more detail than that, because we're going to change shape of ball. We're going to go from the oval ball and we're going to talk about the round ball, because I know you're full of the joys of spring this week, considering Tottenham Hotspur's performance currently at the moment. Shall we begin with Spurs? Shall we give you the floor to begin with that, Stu?
Well, only 3 teams over the last week. Only 3 teams had 9 points, which was Stoke, Manchester United, and the mighty Tottenham. So I was happy with the week. Took us up the table to 5th, which is very good, and it's been a good week of football. Spurs against West Ham, they were very, very strong, and we deserved to win 3-1. But against Liverpool during the week, which we won 2-1, I don't know how we got a result out of that, because second half Liverpool were just superb.
And Gareth Bale has been very much the heartbeat. He's really found some form in the last 2 to 3 games, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was unplayable in the first 15-20 minutes on Wednesday night. He was really, really superb.
You've got to say, when Gareth Bale, eventually decides to go to a big club, where is that going to leave Tottenham?
Is there a bigger club than Tottenham?
Because, without Gareth Bale, that Tottenham team looks very, very average.
Bale is superb, and we would have missed him terribly. But I was saying before we came on air, I think he's got another year at Tottenham. I don't think he'll go next summer either.
But surely if the offer comes from a Real Madrid or something like that, which we're talking, tens of millions, Spurs simply won't be able to refuse to...
He could go to Real Madrid, play Champions League football.
Of course, it'll rip the heart out of Spurs, but reality is...
He's a young boy. He's a young kid. He can stay. And if we get 40 or 50 million from him now, we get it a year later anyway.
Yeah, but you've always said that Spurs is a great business.
It's a business-run club, but the reason that I just said, he's still a young guy. He's not like in his mid-20s, 30s or whatever. He's still a young kid, and what is he, 23, 24? I still think we could keep him for at least get us into Europe. If you're going to Europe this year, why would you want to leave?
Well, listen, as a Spurs fan, you're fighting to hold on to him now. Let's hear what Boas Vias had to say about this whole situation today in a press conference.
Fight for the Champions League for Gareth to stay. Is that how you see it?
Well, I think Modric now has to worry in qualify. Obviously, he's qualified for the Champions League already, but his team finished second, and he has to worry about getting into the quarterfinals of the Champions League whenever the draw comes out. So he has to worry about Atletico Madrid this weekend, as they are on top of him.
Well, I'm not too sure what happened there. Unfortunately, we lost our link. Many apologies for that. But really what it was all about, guys, is clearly Boas Vias and which manager in charge of Gareth Bale would want to let him go. They're going to fight. As a manager, he's going to fight to hold on to him. But
if we finish in the top 4, I don't think there's any reason why Gareth Bale would leave this year. I really don't, Richard. I think, as I say, he's a young kid. God forbid he has a bad injury or something, but taking that aside, he can go in 18 months. He doesn't have to go now.
Sure, you say if we could finish in 4th. If pigs could fly, we'd shoot for bacon.
Well, I think we've got a very good chance of finishing.
And I think
I'm not going to work that way.
and I think there's about as much chance of both happening, to be honest.
Well, how can you say that? I mean, we're in 5th place now. We're only 3 points behind West Brom. We've got the whole season to go. We've got a bit of form.
At no stage have I been convinced that Tottenham could mount a sustained challenge.
I think you'd be pleasantly surprised.
Look at the second half performance against Liverpool. I mean, some of the performances I've seen at Tottenham this year. I mean, I'm even amazed that they're as high as they are.
But the table doesn't lie. We are in 5th place. And Parker's coming back from injury. He'll be going back into midfield. That midfield would look a lot stronger with him in there. And Dembele, who's been out for ages, he's just coming back to
I thought Dembele was absolutely superb.
Well, we've missed him. We played about 5-6 weeks with him.
The other day. I mean, he really was. And you could argue that when he came off, that's when Liverpool really started to play. But I'm just not convinced by your manager.
Well, you said this from day one. I think the guy needs time, and I think he's putting it together. We're in 5th place. I mean, we can't really give an argument, can we? I mean, that's where we are. We are number 5 in the league. The thing is,
it's like, can you make that jump up to 4th, though?
Yes, no problem at all. We've got West Brom in front of us. Chelsea don't know what's going on there. The two Manchester clubs are going to walk away with the championship.
Well, one thing you can say about Chelsea, though, is that with Benitez, they're not going to get beaten that often.
No, they're not going to win that often. Very defensive.
Yeah.
They had 2 draws the last 2 matches, 2 points. I mean, they're dropping points all over the place.
Yeah, but they're not going to be dropping. They're not going to be losing like they would have done under.
Okay, let me give you this. Leave the Manchester clubs. Take your Chelsea. The 4th place is up for grabs, and we're as good as anyone else fighting that 4th place. Everton looks the best team out of the bunch at the moment. Though they've dropped points, they look very good.
I think also, I mean, this war chest that Wenger has got at Christmas. He's going to strengthen the squad
substantially. He doesn't like spending money. He doesn't like spending.
He's got to spend it.
I forgot about Arsenal.
He's
got to spend it.
Strengthening a squad doesn't instantaneously bring success, because you have to bring these players into the system, and they've got to learn to play with the squad that currently exists there.
Well, it depends what sort of player it is and what position, Tom, to be honest.
I think Spurs to spend some money in January, Stu?
They've got to. They've got to buy another forward. We need another forward desperately. You can't just have Defoe, who's on fire at the moment. You can't not play him. Adebayor seems to have gone to sleep at the moment. That happens at every club he's at, unfortunately. But he's still a decent player. But we need another forward. And we must go out and buy a top-class centre-half.
Yeah,
we haven't done it for 2 or 3 years. I mean, Dawson's come in. Gallas looks old. Suspect. He looks tired. He's done brilliantly, but he's tired. Dawson is very, very good, but he's not great. And he's slower now than what he used to be. We need a top-class centre-half.
I think he's very good in the air, Dawson. Some of the defensive headers he does are absolutely
but his overall
fantastic.
Performance, if it's a 1-for-1, they would leave him standing.
He is a bit slow, but I think he's a good player. He reads the game well as well, Dawson.
If we buy a top-class centre-half, another midfielder, and this Portuguese guy that the manager really wants to buy, and we buy a decent centre-forward, I think that squad will take us to 4th place comfortably, maybe even 3rd.
Gentlemen, let's talk about other London clubs as well, please. We don't want to dedicate the whole show to Spurs as much as you would like that, Stu, I understand. Another club that's, not Spurs aren't really struggling at this stage, but Chelsea, under the cosh, certainly Rafa Benitez is under the cosh. We're talking about a defensive side, 2 draws and 2 goalless draws in his first 2 games in charge. He certainly hasn't won over the fans yet. The only thing that will do that is victory. Is 3 points. Fernando Torres is still looking out of sorts. A goal line clearance, denying him a goal on the weekend. That's the very fine line between success and failure. I mean, surely with 1 or 2 goals from Torres could get him on a goal-scoring run. What do you think Benitez can do? We've already seen him shore up the defence. How can he bring them on attack and get them scoring goals?
He'll be more concentrating on defence, I think. That's his system when he was at Liverpool as well. He'll want to get that back 4 and that midfield working. Up front, they haven't got enough... I don't think they've got enough top-class players to really, score a lot of goals, but he, 1-0, 2-1, he's quite happy with that. And I think what he will give them stability. They won't lose many matches, but I'm not sure, Richard, whether they'll win a lot of matches.
The thing is, that system he plays, I mean, it requires your centre forward to be absolutely at the top of his game. And also to be able to not only hold the ball up, but also to be able to have the pace to run into the right spaces. And I think what we've seen from Torres this season is that he seems a couple of a yard short of pace.
Yeah.
And and the sort of runs that you would have in the past have expected him to make. I mean, he just seems behind the game line. And I think that there is talk of Falcao going for 60 million euros to Chelsea.
I was just going to say, before you said that, they've only got Sturridge with Torres. They're the only two forwards I think that they've got, but what they have got is a money machine. And if they need to buy players in January, they'll do so. But will he give money to Benitez when he's waiting for a new manager to come in? Because he's only there temporarily.
Well, the thing is,
Falcao, you would
yeah,
you would buy Falcao if there was a 12-year-old in managing your club, wouldn't you? I mean, Falcao's quality.
Yeah, is it Bruce Buck, the managing director of Chelsea? I mean, the thing is, most decisions, in regards to transfers, are decided at by the technical director of football, and Abramovich. And the manager has very, very little input.
But do you think they'd want to wait for if the Barcelona guy is going to come and take over there, wouldn't they want to leave the money chest for him to decide what he wants to do?
Well, I don't think with a player of the quality of Falcao. I mean, there's I don't think there's any Premiership manager in the country who wouldn't want Falcao in their team.
13 goals and 14 starts in the league for Atletico Madrid this season. They're second in the league because of his goal-scoring exploits. There's no doubt about it.
He's got a goal a game, I think his record is for Colombia. I mean, he's a top player.
Just going back to what you were saying, very interesting what you said about Torres and his pace. Very interesting article today in the papers. Darren Campbell, remember Darren Campbell, 4x100 metre gold medalist for Great Britain in 2004, I think it might have been, in the Athens Games. He now works in the capacity with rugby clubs and football clubs from a speed and a pace point of view for players like a winger in rugby or somebody up front. And he seems to think that give him 2 weeks with Fernando Torres, he can help him rediscover that pacer.
But it's not just his pace. It's not just his pace.
Well, that's true.
It's his touch.
I was just about to say.
But that's a confidence thing, though, isn't it? That's a confidence thing. You don't just lose your touch.
He's
you lose your confidence.
Badly.
Yeah, it's the same with the batsman out of form in cricket, isn't it? You never form is temporary, class is permanent, and Torres is very much like it. But it's very much geared around confidence.
Well, if anyone can coax him to get that back, that'd be Benitez. I mean, they've got something between them. They both speak the same lingo. They know each other very, very well. I mean, it's a wait and see situation. But they haven't won in 6 matches, Chelsea, which is terrible for a team like that.
But the other thing is, Dominic, I can't, from what I've read and having chatted to a few Chelsea fans, I can't ever see the getting to a point where they're prepared to accept Benitez, even if he wins a few games.
Or if I think
the early signs do very much suggest that, but fans do have very short memories.
They do.
Don't they?
He wins 6 on the trot. All of a sudden, he becomes a.
And also, I don't think he's going to play the sort of football that Chelsea want to see being played at the Bridge.
I agree with you there, definitely. He won't. It's not his system.
And also, the other thing is that what Abramovich wants more than anything else is, his team to play, beautiful, flowing football. And you're not going to get that from Benitez, so I think he's going to be dissatisfied on that front as well.
Do you think you're looking at the situation, go back about 2 or 3 weeks, he was a ridiculous move to get rid of Di Matteo?
Well, it's so difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, I think it was a little bit premature. And I think that, bearing in mind that, it seems to have stemmed from, Di Matteo's refusal, to consistently pick Torres, that, this rift with Abramovich, started to open about, that... he was then fired because everyone who watches Chelsea play will tell you exactly the same thing. Okay, they are hindered to a certain extent by the appalling form of Fernando Torres this year.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Gentlemen, Manchester United, Manchester City, United not having to come from behind for the first time in several games to defeat West Ham 1-0. 31 seconds, Robin van Persie on the score sheet. Manchester City comfortable away from home, 2-0 against Wigan. One man that was struggling in front of goal for Manchester City, like Torres was done, is Balotelli, finally getting his first goal of the season. What do you make of those two performances?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say it was a comfortable win by Man City. I thought Wigan were absolutely sensational.
They were superb.
Absolutely sensational. And that game should have ended in a draw because Wigan did not deserve to lose, and I was really impressed. I thought the movement of the team was fantastic. I thought the way they ran for each other, and it was just the shot from Milner was an absolute,
tremendous goal.
That was an absolute cracker. No goalkeeper in the world was ever going to save that. But, I thought they were a bit unlucky with the first goal. And as I said, I mean, they should have had a couple themselves.
But it shows you how good the Premier League is when you've got a team sitting up at second, like Manchester City, playing a team at 15th, and they give them a hell of a game like they did. I mean, it says a lot for the league.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, apparently Man City are also interested in Falcao, whereas, when I look at Man City, their weakness is definitely in the back four.
Oh, without question.
Why Mancini isn't saying, right, we're going to buy a new right back, because Maicon, I think, has had his day, and they need someone to be next to company.
But they're so strong in midfield, they counter that back four. If you can get at them, that's great, but not many teams can get at them, and Wigan had a few chances, but not point-blank chances. That Coney up front, who came from Spanish football, he had a couple of great opportunities, which he didn't put away, and if he'd put it away, he could have changed the whole game. I'm not sure Wigan would have defended out the rest of the game if they went one down, personally. Because, City just have something. They have the players, they have the subs, when they fetch on these top-class players. There's going to be a great run-in. United and City's going to go...
The thing is, though, when I look at Man City, they're not an attractive team to watch.
They're not as fluent as Manchester United. Nowhere near as fluent. Well, they're attractive. You want to win games. I mean, if you're talking to me as a Spurs supporter, I want to win games. 1-0 every week would be fine for me.
I know, but if you look at any of the top teams, Arsenal... even Chelsea with Benitez, Man United, they all play attractive flowing football, and there's always something when I see Man City, there's
slow.
It's turgid, isn't it?
Yeah. They wear you down. That's their game. I think they wear you down. Going back to Arsenal, sorry.
No, carry on.
No, I was going to say Arsenal. I watched both their games, and they were terrific over the last week, and yet only got a couple of points. Their midfield play is terrific, absolutely terrific. And it's just up front. They're just missing that sparkle up front. Cazorla's playing well, as he has been, but they just don't seem to finish the chance. They dominate and dominate and dominate. In fact, I'm not going to say it sounds terrible. I say it gets boring. It's wonderful to watch, but there's no finish. There doesn't seem to... they also need a top-class centre-forward.
Well, I mean, he's got the money to buy one, but I have to say, though, I did think the chip finish by Walcott for their first goal was absolutely sublime.
Oh yeah, it was a great goal.
And with the outside chips with the outside of the right peg.
Took a deflection, I think. Took a
no,
deflection.
I don't think so.
No.
Gentlemen, we're going to revisit the Premiership at the end of the show. We're going to look ahead at the fixtures that are taking place. We're just going to cast our eye over Europe for a second. What's been going on in Europe? Some very big matchups coming this weekend as well. During the course of the week, you had some Bundesliga action. We had King's Cup action as well. Malaga's great victory against Valencia. We're going to start first with Serie A, because that's really looking very interesting at the moment, Stu. You've got about 6 or 7 points now separating the top 6. Juventus lost on the weekend to AC Milan. Inter Milan lost as well on the weekend. Lazio won on Monday night against Udinese. Fiorentina on a great run as well. And those are all the sides that are in the mix. Napoli won as well, I believe, on Sunday, I think it was. And they now move only 2 points shy of Juventus at the top of the table. It's all looking very interesting there in Serie A this year so far.
Well, it was amazing last Sunday. Juventus going to beat AC Milan, who haven't been on fire at all. So I was surprised they dropped 3 points there. Napoli, as you say, on Monday beat Cagliari 1-0. And it is an exciting league at the moment. Fiorentina have been superb. I mean, they're just playing so well. They haven't lost for 8 games. They've got 21 points from 30, and they shot right up the table to 3rd place. So you've got Juventus, Napoli, Fiorentina, Inter Milan, Lazio. I mean, that's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
really exciting.
Very exciting league. And one of the big derbies this weekend up north is Torino against Juventus, or should I say Juventus against Torino. And that is a derby, not a northern derby like I described AC Milan, Inter Milan, beg your pardon.
It's the derby dell'Alpi, I think.
There you go, absolutely. So steeped in history that Juventus certainly have the rub of the green in the results. Bundesliga action took place during the week as well. Unfortunately for Borussia Dortmund, they dropped points. Schalke, the Royal Blues, dropped points as well. Bayern Munich didn't. They got a victory. They're now 10 points clear at the top of the table, and that all leads into tomorrow's big clash. Defending champions Borussia Dortmund against Bayern Munich, the league leaders this year.
That should be a great game. That's in Munich. The first place third should be a cracking game. Bayern won during the week 2-0 against Freiburg, and they just keep going on. Leverkusen are coming right through. You noticed?
Yeah, they're coming up.
They're coming up into 2nd place now. Got 23 from 30 points, 23 points from 30, which is a really, really good run. And they seem to be going very well. Borussia Dortmund in 3rd, Schalke in 4, Frankfurt in 5. Again, very interestingly, but I think Bayern have run away from it. I think it's who's going to finish in the minor positions now, because 10 points, a lot of points going virtually into pre-Christmas. Yeah. I think if they beat Dortmund and go 13 points clear or whatever...
Well, they're going to their winter break now after this weekend,
so
don't they?
I think it's going to be tough to catch them.
Real Madrid dropped points on the weekend. Barcelona won. Malaga won convincingly 4-0 against Valencia. That was a tremendous result. Atletico Madrid won as well. But during the course of the week, it was King's Cup. And David Villa scored his 300th and 301st career goal for Barcelona to send them through to the next round of the King's Cup. And Malaga snuck through 4-4 on aggregate against a second division team, and I can't actually think of their name at the moment. You'll be able to highlight on that. Real Madrid went through as well with very much a second team, but the last 16 is now done, and I think you've got some news on the draw as well for us, don't you, Stu?
Well, Malaga appear to have Eibar, or it must be a non-league team, or Atletico Bilbao in the next round, over 2 legs, obviously. Real Madrid have got Celta Vigo, Barcelona Cordoba, Mallorca have Seville, so there's some interesting fixtures there. That's the last 16 now, so it's going to be interesting to see. If Malaga can go another round, then all of a sudden, being the last state, it'll be something worth fighting for. So, but the game, the weekend against Valencia, they were absolutely superb. I haven't seen a performance like that. In fact, it's the best performance I've seen the whole season from Malaga. They were really terrific, start to finish.
And we're talking about the side that did they draw with Bayern Munich, or did they defeat Bayern Munich in the Champions League barely 10 days ago? I think it was a 1-1 draw, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a 1-1 draw.
So we're talking about a top-class side here, Valencia. So that was a tremendous result to go up there and defeat them 4-0, wasn't it?
Well, it was at Malaga. And they just played terrific. It was just one of those days where everything clicked, and they just took the game by storm. But it was a terrific performance, and well, if they keep playing like that, they can hold on to 4th place. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be a nice game this week. You know, they've got the last match against Anderlecht on Tuesday or Wednesday night. They're through to the next stage anyway, but it's going to be a nice atmosphere there with not too much, pressure on them, and they can enjoy the evening.
The key with Malaga is, can they keep some of their best players?
Well, this is a topic that we discuss almost every week, isn't it? It's a tough call, isn't it? Really, it's. I mean, the likes of Isco, I know the club need the money, but how could they even contemplate selling these people?
I mean, if Elisu goes and Isco goes, I think it's going to make it very difficult. But hopefully they won't. I mean, Isco's a local lad, and Malaga's his team, so hopefully.
They're not for him a new contract. Someone get hold of him now, sit him down, give him a cup of coffee, double his wages or something. I mean, the guy's worth it. I mean, again, he's
not. But they can't double any wages because they haven't even paid them the wages they're owed.
Well, I was reading this week from Paul's in the Sir in English, and they seem to be paying some of their bills, including the wages. So if they're doing that and the guys are getting paid, then it's going to make the whole club feel better.
Stu, we have to get the commercial sponsors that pay for the radio station. We've got to give them a few words now.
It's the Friday Sports Bar on Talk Radio Europe with Dom Aldworth.
Welcome back to the Friday Night Sports Bar. And don't forget, for 9:30 this evening, live on Talk Radio Europe, Paul Breen Turner will be ringside at Aintree for David Price versus Matt Skelton fight, which is for the British and Commonwealth Heavyweight Championship. David Price, unbeaten David Price, is a great prospect for British boxing, a former bronze medalist, if my memory serves me correctly, in the Beijing Games. And David Price is definitely one in the making for it's certainly taking on one of the Klitschko's in the future. Maybe Tyson Fury before. I can't really see Matt Skelton being too much of an obstacle for him. But Paul Breen Turner will be ringside to bring you all the latest and the live commentary from Aintree. That's this evening at 9:30. Also in New York, Madison Square Garden, Miguel Cotto gets back into the ring as well. Cotto only having lost to Mayweather and Pacquiao before in his career. He's a 5-division world champion, and he looks for his 6th world championship fight tournament win against Austin Trout at Madison Square Garden, where he's unbeaten in 7 fights. So boxing fans, don't forget to miss out on that one. Rich, we're going to say a little bit of a farewell to one of cricketing's true greats. On Tuesday, the announcement came out of Australia from Perth, from the WACA, Ricky Ponting, certainly one of the greatest cricketers the world has ever seen, one of the great Australian captains, second leading run scorer of all time, the punter, or punter as he's fondly known as around the world, announced his retirement.
Well, punter, yeah, and old punter Ponting, and there was no more prize scalp for any opposing team playing Australia than Ponting's. Great player, great captain, and I think that he's eclipsed Tendulkar's record, hasn't he, in terms of runs scored? No, he's still well shy of that. Tendulkar's in the 15,000s, and Ricky Ponting's on 13,366. Well, still a tremendous achievement, and certainly
second on the list, yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Australia, have struggled really to find a replacement for the consistency that he's shown throughout his career, and also the determination. And that was the thing about Ponting, is that he never ever gave up his wicket without a fight. And a great character, and one of those characters that if you're an English cricket fan you absolutely love to hate. And I don't think anyone can ever forget his spat with Duncan Fletcher in 2005 when the young substitute fielder managed to run him out, and he was absolutely furious. Then there was I think there's a few choice words between him and Fletcher on the way up past the dressing room, and it was a huge amount of satisfaction.
But county cricket maybe beckoning for a year or two?
Well, I think that possibly, because he is he's a real cricketing purist, Ricky Ponting, and he's
still in great shape as well.
Still in great shape, and certainly, though the eyes may have gone a little bit for Test cricket, he's still got plenty in the tank for county cricket, and he's not also the player I think who'll really sort of succumb to the big bucks of the Indian Premier League. He's never been a great advocate of 2020.
There, other than his batting, which was, as we've already mentioned, he's the second leading run scorer of all time.
Great cover fieldsman.
Great cover fieldsman and an absolutely superb captain. The statistics here, have a look at this. He led Australia to 162 one-day international wins, including 2 World Cups in that, 48 Test match wins as captain, including that run of 16 in succession as well, with that fantastic Australian side with the likes of Glenn McGrath, Shane Warne in there, but just a real great leader as well.
Well, as you say, he epitomised the tough, gritty Australian. Going all the way back to legends such as Bill Ponsford. Who would get struck on the temple by a Harold Larwood bouncer and still be there the next day, defending his wicket for Australia. And and as I said, and Ponting really epitomised that gritty type of Australian, which the Australians are very proud of in their culture.
Well, from one great champion, farewell Ricky Ponting, and thanks for all the good memories. From one great champion to others, these ones are not retired or are not retiring, but it is award season as well. And Usain Bolt and Alison Felix cleaned up the IAAF International Female and Male Athletes of the Year. Usain Bolt for his exploits in the Olympics, defending his 100 and 200 metre crowns. Alison Felix for winning the 200 metre gold and the 4x400 gold as well in the Olympics, and the 4x100 gold as well, beg your pardon. 3 gold medals there for Alison Felix, so richly deserved award. Serena Williams was named the WTA Player of the Year for her outstanding summer, cleaning up in Wimbledon, the US Open, and a gold medal there. 48 of her last 50 matches she won. And Rich, sorry, you wanted to comment on something I made earlier.
Yeah, sorry, it's changing the subject slightly, but when you said we have to say goodbye to a cricketing champion, I thought you were, perhaps forewarning us of the imminent fate of Andrew Flintoff in his bout.
Well, I don't even want to waste valuable time on the Friday Night Sports Bar talking about this. It must be. I thought it was a practical joke, and I thought it was the 1st of April, but then I saw the dates and it wasn't. I find the whole thing cringeworthy, to be perfectly honest.
I think it's an absolute disgrace, Dominic. I think it diminishes the. And tarnishes the reputation of both boxing and Freddie Flintoff.
What do you make of that, Stu?
I can't make head or tail of it. I think it just, as you say, I think it just makes boxing, it just takes it down the drain, does it? It takes it down the gutter. It's just ridiculous.
What sportsman at the age of 36 decides, okay, well, I'm going to play international rugby. I'm going to play international cricket. I'm going to be a professional boxer at the age of 36. The whole thing's a joke.
Somebody with an ego the size of a planet, Dominic.
Well, Flintoff, yeah. Perhaps he should have focused his attention more on his overall statistics as an England cricketer, because, to be perfectly honest, he only had one good series, didn't he? And that was the Ashes win. He didn't really do anything either side of that, did he?
Well, he did have, but the thing is, one thing one benefit that might come out of this boxing bout is a little bit of humility. It might humble him somewhat.
Well, we've got a caller on the line. We're going to bring you in. Welcome to Talk Radio Europe. You're live on air. How can we help you?
Yes, I was listening to the programme and you mentioned my pet thing about Harold Larwood.
Yes.
Yeah, well...
Do you remember him well?
Well, no, but as a young apprentice, both as a young pilot and a mechanical apprentice, there were some people that were very, very keen on Larwood, and that Bradman ruined Larwood, because he came over to Australia and skittled everybody out for a duck. And when they came back and there was going to be a return match in Australia, what happened was the Bradman, the captain of the Australian team, said, if you bring that man over, I'm not bringing my team out. And now the British selectors swallowed it, sent everyone else that couldn't put their hands up to Australia and retained Larwood back in England. And that's when the rot set in with cricket, because Larwood was bowling at 120 to 135 miles per hour, and they couldn't even see the balls. They went, and he was...
John,
6 out of 6.
John,
you know?
I think this is a bit fanciful where you're talking about 135 miles an hour. John, I've seen plenty of black and white footage of Harold Larwood. And first of all, it's physically impossible to bowl that fast. Okay, that's the first thing you should be aware of. And secondly, John, stop talking and listen a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason, okay, that Larwood was so effective in the 31 tour of Australia was because of Douglas Jardine and the development and implementation of bodyline. And in order to counter that, what the cricket authorities did is that, first of all, they limited the amount of fielders that could be placed on the leg side, and they also then said that it was not in the spirit of the game, and they would not let England deploy this system. But he certainly never bowled at 135 miles an hour. That is a physical impossibility.
It's low. I have to contradict you there.
John, the fastest ball, okay, that has ever been bowled in cricket, okay, is 97 miles an hour.
No. But Larwood,
John, look it up. John, look it up on the internet.
John,
look it up on the internet. Phone us back, John. You're incorrect.
Don't need to, because
you do, John. John, you can't come on. You can't just insist that you're right on this when you're patently wrong. Because physically, first of all, okay, look it up on the internet, okay, because it's physically.
Aussie cricketers, one after the other, and Bradman said he didn't want him brought over again. He was frightened of him.
Well, listen, John, I must say, we have to cut this over, but the one thing I must say with Richard is entirely correct, actually. Well, not entirely correct, because the fastest delivery ever bowled is actually by a guy called Shoaib Akhtar from Pakistan, and that was actually done in the 2004 World Cup in South Africa, Cape Town, against the West Indies. I actually witnessed that firsthand. I was at the ground myself, and they had a speed gun, and it was just short of 100 miles an hour. It is a physical...
99, that's right.
99 miles an hour. It's a physical impossibility for anybody to bowl that quickly. 145, 150 is what the quick bowlers of today are actually doing it at. But
that's kilometres.
Kilometres an hour, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
But
John's talking 135 miles an hour. Impossible, John. Impossible.
And also, Larwood only took 3 steps to deliver.
No, he didn't, John. That's rubbish. John, go. John, you're talking. You're talking.
Gentlemen,
I don't know where you're talking from.
John, I'm sorry.
Look on the internet. Okay, there's plenty of black and white footage of Harold Larwood. Okay,
guys, we have to go to a commercial break. John, thank you so much for winding Richard up. I owe you one. See you the other side of these messages.
It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Welcome back to the show, John. Thanks for your call there. We're going to move from a round ball, but a small round ball, back to a football again, Stu. This is your side of it again. Not too many comments that you had to make on the cricket side of it, because I know it's not your sport. But I wonder if Fernando Torres can find the back of the net at 135 miles an hour at the moment. What do you reckon?
No.
Should we talk about Spanish football coming up this weekend, gentlemen? Let's talk us through what's going on this weekend in Spain, Stu.
We've got some good games coming up. The most important one for us is Malaga, away to Getafe. Getafe in 7th, Malaga in 4th. Won't be an easy game. Getafe has shown a bit of form this year. They've won 5, drawn none, they won 5, drawn none, and lost 5. So they've got 15 from 30. So they've got a bit of form. Be an interesting game. Barcelona got Atletico Bilbao.
That's a big one, isn't it?
It is a big one. But the most important game to me is Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. That should be an absolute...
sorry, that's the one I was actually referring to, is the big Madrid derby. I mean, Real Madrid really need these points, don't they?
They can't afford to drop anything. I mean, after losing 1-0, it was just... It's a travesty. They just can't afford to drop points now.
First time in 14 years that this derby takes place at the Santiago Bernabeu that Real Madrid find them with less points than Atletico Madrid. Did you know that?
I didn't, but they're 8 points behind. That's a lot of points. And, you know, if Barcelona win this week and go to 40 and Real Madrid don't get a win, you know, there could be 14 points between Barcelona and Real Madrid, which is probably the first time ever.
Wouldn't it be great, though, for a team other than Barcelona or Real Madrid to win La Liga?
When was the last time that happened?
I think it was Deportivo or Valencia.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, it's something. Atletico Madrid are going really well. They're not there just by chance. They're playing some great football.
Yeah, well, they've got some good players.
Tomorrow night, I mean, that game tomorrow, I mean, Ronaldo versus Falcao. Who's going to come out on top? Falcao's got his nose out of joint slightly because he wasn't on the shortlist for the Ballon d'Or, which was announced on Monday. Ronaldo, Iniesta, and of course Messi are the shortlisted players yet again. Falcao could so easily have been on that list, couldn't he?
Very much so. I'm surprised he wasn't, actually, the way he's been playing this year.
Well, there's only 3 for the short list, isn't there?
But in front of Iniesta, I'm surprised Iniesta got in front.
Well, Iniesta was the player of the tournament in the Euro Championships, wasn't he? So I think that probably got him the edge.
Okay.
It's a great prospect, though.
Ronaldo sulks too much. To me, if he's not having a good game, not going his way, he just enjoys sulking and just running to the corner.
He'd fit in well at Spurs, wouldn't he?
He would fit. we don't sulk at Spurs.
Let's talk about Premier League.
90%.
Let's talk about the Premier League. Who's Spurs got tomorrow then, Stu? It's a London derby for you, isn't it?
There's some great games. Yeah. We've got Fulham away, which is a really hard game. Fulham at home are a very, very strong team, got a great record, and we're going to go there and give it all. If we get a draw, I'll be pleased, but I'd like to keep the winning going. We've won 2 on the trot now. It'd be nice to win a third. I also like the Manchester City-Everton game. I think that's going to be a cracking game. Everton in great form. I mean, that could be really good.
I think there might be a bit of an upset there, you know. I think
very possibly.
I think Everton might just do it. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling they might.
There's a couple of good little matchups there, isn't there? West Brom versus Stoke. I mean, Stoke doing very well in recent times.
Absolutely. And West Brom need to get back on track. And you've got West Ham and Chelsea.
Arsenal, Swansea.
Yeah, some great fixtures in the Premier.
2 great passing teams there as well. I was impressed with Swansea the other day.
Southampton clawing their way up as well with some points in recent times. Southampton
getting a bit of confidence now, aren't they? A win and a draw. All of a sudden, the confidence comes through the team.
I think they've had 2 draws and a win, or 3 draws and a win in the last 4 games, something like that, haven't they?
2 wins and 2 draws, correct, which is a little bit of form. And also they're playing some nice football, and I'm pleased for the manager because he really has his heart with Southampton, and the supporters. I mean, that's what you want. They chant his name. I mean, it gets tremendous encouragement. And when you see Chelsea like their last couple of matches, it must be terrible to be a Chelsea supporter going in and seeing what the crowd are like. I mean,
but there was talk of them getting rid of Atkins, wasn't there? About 6 weeks ago.
Correct.
You know,
you've got to give these managers time. It's not Christmas yet.
Well, I think is it Rupert Lowe? Is it at Southampton?
The guy's supposed to have a lot of good hands in with a lot of top Premier
Is he still the chairman, Rupert Lowe?
I think so.
Yeah, well, you know, and that was because he's somebody who really does know what he's doing, Rupert Lowe, and I was really surprised when I heard that.
Well, I'm pleased.
I mean, unlike the guy who runs Wolverhampton Wanderers.
You're going to bring up your team.
Well, I mean,
should we talk about those? We've got a couple of minutes left. Let's talk. Where are Wolves at the moment?
Listen, I told you at the very beginning of the season, okay? I mean, as I say, Jez Moxey, who is the CEO of Wolverhampton Wanderers, you would not trust him to run a corner shop, let alone a football club. And, you know, you only have to look at the appalling management decisions he has made in the last 9 months to realise, you know, Wolverhampton Wanderers, there's only one way we're going, which is down.
But Wolves are 18th place and they haven't won in 9 matches. So
and we're not going to, because the manager that's, you know, that we appointed was appointed with an appalling record. I mean, he got fired from FC Cologne. The rationale of the club is, let's bring in a foreign coach, you know, and bring in
why haven't they sacked him?
bring in that continental style of play. But you know, the thing is that's great, but, you know, you need to bring in a continental coach who comes from, you know, a winning club and who is used to winning, not a continental coach who was fired after 3 months and is, you know, and his highest success, I think, was in the Norwegian league, taking a team from the 2nd division to the 1st division.
Sense, does it? Doesn't make much sense at all.
It makes no sense. Look at the decision last year with Terry Connor, okay? I mean, what idiot would have ever appointed Terry Connor? I mean, you only had to see him being interviewed on the television to realise that this was, you know, a nice guy, probably a very good coach,
out of his depth.
But somebody completely out of his depth, who was never in a million light years going to ever motivate a team to get out of that problems. And, you know, so you've got to say, where does the blame lie with the even bigger idiots who run the club? And as I said, Jez Moxey, okay, you wouldn't even trust him to run a corner shop, and trust me.
Great stuff. This is great stuff. Stu, you want to say something?
I was just going to say, Wolves got beat during the week by Millwall 1-0 at home, and Millwall are absolutely going berserk in the league. They've got 24 points from 30. They've gone right up the table to 5th. Could have another London derby.
Yeah, they need to fire him. In fact, I'm going to write to Jez over the weekend and tell him exactly where he's going.
Have you put him on your punch bag?
I need to, I tell you, but we need to fire him and either get Mark Hughes or Paolo Di Canio, okay? And both those two players, okay,
gotta like him.
Both those players, okay, have got exactly what it takes.
You're playing Bristol City away. They're third from bottom.
This is Talk Radio Europe on the hour. Live international.